Listen closely. My name is Ethan Stonehaven, and at 35 years old, I've spent nearly 4 decades navigating a labyrinth of toxic favoritism, betrayal, and calculated destruction, all orchestrated by my own family, with my cousin Brendan as the sharpened blade. He wasn't just a rival or a bully, he was the embodiment of unchecked privilege, a nightmare that went unpunished for far too long. He sabotaged my career with surgical precision, engineered the collapse of my marriage like a house of cards, and then, in the ultimate act of theft, he impregnated my fiancée, stealing the very foundation of the family I had dreamed of building. But today, I stand atop the ruins of his empire. I control the $5 million legacy of Stonehaven Holdings, the construction and real estate juggernaut my grandfather built from nothing. It was supposed to be Brendan's destiny, his golden ticket. Instead, it's mine, earned through pain, patience, and a lifetime of strategic restraint. Yesterday, he called, not to beg forgiveness, but to plead for salvation from the financial and social abyss he dug for himself. This isn't merely a tale of revenge. It's a chronicle of how enduring agony can forge an unbreakable will, how strategic thinking, honed in the fires of injustice, can deliver a final, irrevocable act of justice. It's about the cold, silent truth that consequences are inevitable, no matter how long they take to arrive. My story begins in the shadow of Stonehaven Manor, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of Boston, where my grandfather, Arthur Stonehaven, ruled like a benevolent despot. Grandpa was a self-made titan, rising from a dirt-poor Irish immigrant to the helm of a multi-million-dollar empire through sheer grit and ruthless ambition. He built bridges, skyscrapers, and fortunes, but his greatest flaw was his obsession with charisma over competence. To him, family wasn't about blood, it was about potential heirs who mirrored his own flamboyant style. That's where the divide started. I was born first, the son of his eldest child, Robert, my father, a quiet engineer who preferred blueprints to boardrooms. From the moment I could walk, Grandpa labeled me the utility engineer, reliable, functional, but utterly unflashy. I was the cog that kept the machine running, not the one that shone. Then came Brendan, for years my junior, the son of Grandpa's favorite daughter, Aunt Lydia. Brendan was the golden prince, anointed from birth as the heir apparent. Grandpa saw in him a reflection of his younger self, bold, outgoing, with a charm that could disarm a room. While I was shuttled off to rigorous technical schools, drilling through calculus and structural engineering until my eyes blurred, Grandpa bankrolled Brendan's whims. He sent him to a mediocre art academy in New York, complete with a fully serviced penthouse condo overlooking Central Park. Grandpa's justification? Ethan relies on logic, Brendan relies on vision. Visionaries need comfort to create. You, Ethan, thrive on challenge, it builds character. It was a narrative that poisoned the family well. My achievements were expected, practical necessities. Brendan's were celebrated as strokes of genius, even when they amounted to little more than half-baked sketches or failed startups funded by Grandpa's checkbook. Brendan's bullying wasn't crude or physical, it was insidious, designed to erode my sense of self without leaving visible scars. He weaponized my introversion, turning it into a punchline at family gatherings. Ethan's the family robot, he'd quip, his smile sharp as a knife, while everyone chuckled indulgently. But his attacks went deeper. I remember one incident vividly, when I was 16 and he was 12. I'd spent an entire year in my basement workshop perfecting a scale model of a new seismic dampening system, a prototype that could revolutionize earthquake-resistant buildings. It was my passion project, born from late nights poring over physics texts. The day of the family science fair Grandpa hosted, I presented it proudly. As the stress test began, the model shuddered and collapsed spectacularly. Humiliation burned through me as laughter rippled through the crowd. Later, I discovered the sabotage. Brendan had swapped a critical internal component with a flawed prototype from my discard pile. When I confronted him in the garden, away from prying eyes, his response was chilling. I just tested your contingency plan, Ethan. Clearly, it failed. No remorse, just a smug glint in his eyes. Grandpa's verdict? Brendan has an instinct for competitive advantage. Learn from it, boy. The wounds accumulated, layer by layer. During my teenage years, I battled clinical depression, a silent storm that left me isolated and raw. Therapy sessions were my lifeline, but Brendan knew about them, he'd overheard my parents whispering. One evening, as I sat alone on the manor's stone steps, staring at the fading sunset, he approached. You're structurally defective, Ethan, he said, his voice low and venomous. Why don't you do everyone a favor and just disappear? The words lodged in my chest like shrapnel. I confided in my mother, hoping for solace, but she offered only platitudes. Boys will be boys, dear. Your grandfather sees potential in both of you. It was her standard excuse, a shield against challenging the patriarch. From then on, I learned that emotional vulnerability was a luxury I couldn't afford in this family. I buried my pain, channeling it into excellence, graduating top of my class in civil engineering, landing internships at prestigious firms. But Brendan? He coasted, his failures glossed over with Grandpa's money and influence. By the time I turned 25, I'd clawed my way to a senior position at Stonehaven Holdings, overseeing major projects. I'd secured the largest commercial contract in the company's history, a $50 million redevelopment of an old harbor district into luxury condos. It was my triumph, a testament to years of meticulous planning. Grandpa, ever the meddler, couldn't resist inserting Brendan as Innovation Director, a made-up title to stroke his ego. Brendan arrived like a storm, demanding instant changes without understanding the intricacies. When he pushed me to approve $200,000 in fraudulent invoices, kickbacks to his shady suppliers, I refused outright. "This is illegal, Brendan. It could tank the whole project." His response was swift and devastating. That night, he remotely accessed my secure server, using credentials he'd somehow pilfered, and ran a deletion script, wiping out 6 months of proprietary building information modeling data. The project ground to a halt, costing us weeks and thousands in recovery efforts. This time, my father, Robert, intervened. Dad had always been the quiet enforcer, loyal to Grandpa but with a moral compass that wouldn't bend. He didn't explode in rage. Instead, he pulled me into his study, the air thick with the scent of aged leather and cigar smoke. "I've been a loyal son, Ethan, but I won't be complicit in cultivating a criminal. This ends now." He fired Brendan on the spot and filed a police report for felony computer sabotage. It wasn't about jail time, Brendan had enough family lawyers to wriggle free, but about exposure. The scandal hit local business news, tainting his golden image. Dad then did something unexpected. He funded my enrollment in a discreet, high-level course for corporate leaders navigating internal conflicts. It was essentially psychological warfare training, taught by ex-intelligence operatives and psychologists. There, I learned to harness my strengths: impeccable documentation, surgical detachment, and the power of silence. My mentor, a grizzled former CIA analyst, drilled into me, "The deadliest revenge isn't explosive, it's the slow poison that makes your enemy destroy themselves. Appear weak when you're strong, and let their arrogance be their undoing." Armed with this knowledge, I returned to Stonehaven and embedded deep-level financial monitoring software into the company's systems, discreet, undetectable, and primed to flag anomalies. Brendan, overconfident after dodging charges, slithered back into Grandpa's good graces and attempted another scheme, siphoning funds through shell companies. The software triggered an automatic forensic audit, uncovering a trail of embezzlement. The board meeting was brutal. Brendan was publicly humiliated, banned from company property for 3 years, and forced into rehabilitation programs that Grandpa paid for. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He knew I was no longer the easy target. In the aftermath, life seemed to brighten. With Brendan sidelined, I focused on rebuilding. That's when I met Jessica at an industry conference in Chicago. She was a sharp financial strategist, with auburn hair that caught the light and a laugh that cut through the corporate drudgery. We bonded over shared ambitions, her for innovative investments, mine for sustainable urban development. Our relationship moved fast, dates in cozy bistros, weekends exploring New England's coastlines. I proposed on a cliffside overlook, the ring a simple platinum band symbolizing stability. Early on, she'd confessed a brief lapse, a one-night indiscretion during a business trip. I forgave her, believing forgiveness was an investment in our future. "We're building something real," I told her. That was my gravest error. 2 months before the wedding, the illusion shattered. Jessica came home late, her face pale under the kitchen lights. "Ethan, we need to talk." Her confession spilled out like a flood, a long-term affair, not just physical but conspiratorial. She was pregnant, and the child wasn't mine. The father? Brendan. My world tilted. She didn't just betray me intimately, she allied with him against me. Brendan offered excitement, unregulated power, she admitted, tears streaming. "You were stable, predictable. He said you were just a tool, that he was the true heir." Worse, she'd accessed my encrypted drive, downloading proprietary bidding algorithms and acquisition targets, handing them to Brendan to fuel his rival firm. It was corporate espionage wrapped in personal treachery. Rage surged, but I suppressed it, drawing on my training. My voice was flat, emotionless. "You've just signed my cousin's final death warrant, and your own divorce papers. Get out." She recoiled from my stillness, more terrifying than any outburst. I moved out that night, holing up in a nondescript hotel. For 48 hours, I plotted my endgame, not in fury, but with clinical precision. I needed vindication that would echo through the family and beyond, leaving no room for doubt. I orchestrated an emergency summit at Stonehaven Manor. Grandpa, frail but commanding in his wheelchair, sat at the head of the mahogany table. Dad flanked me, his expression steely. Jessica was there, coerced by the threat of legal action. Brendan joined via speakerphone, oblivious. I played the audio recording of her confession, every damning detail of theft, sabotage, and motive. Silence blanketed the room. Brendan's voice crackled through, "You still don't get it, Ethan. You lost your woman and your edge. I have the charisma, the control. Stonehaven is mine. Grandpa's face crumpled, aged a decade in moments. I taught you both about legacy, he rasped, but only one learned integrity. Brendan, you've committed corporate treason. He issued the fan quiet Toi Thwang, the supreme judgment. 1. Immediate disinheritance from his will, stripping Brendan of any claim. 2. A $10 million civil suit against him for damages, not for recovery but for ruinous publicity. 3. Social exile, no family contact, no references, no mercy. My mother, who had enabled this for years, collapsed into sobs. For the first time, she hugged me tightly, whispering, "I'm sorry, Ethan. I was blind. I enabled a monster." The fallout was swift. DNA tests confirmed Brendan's paternity. Dad's lawyers made the divorce a blitzkrieg. I emerged unscathed, with Jessica's assets frozen and child support burdens dumped on Brendan. Grandpa, his health failing, transferred everything to me, controlling shares, properties, liquid assets exceeding $5 million. Brendan got a symbolic $1 coin, tossed to him like scraps. The suit was masterful. It froze his bank accounts, seized his penthouse and luxury cars, and garnished future earnings. Legal fees mounted into 6 figures, bankruptcy loomed. Jessica hounded him for support, her thrill turning to desperation. His rival firm crumbled under scrutiny, clients fleeing the scandal. Yesterday, his call came. His voice, once booming with arrogance, was a broken whisper, "Ethan, please. They're taking everything, the condo, the cars, the debt's crushing me. Court fees, Jessica's demands. I'll be your subordinate forever. Just tell Grandpa to call off the lawyers." I let him beg, each sob an echo of my past pains. When he finished, I replied, voice devoid of warmth, "You called me defective, told me to disappear. Now, face your self-made court of consequences. I won't intercede. Your choices sealed this. Between us, nothing remains." I hung up, deleted his number, and felt release. No regret, just the quiet satisfaction of balance restored. I now helm Stonehaven Holdings, answering only to myself, building ethically where Brendan would have plundered. But I ask you, was the absolute, systematic destruction of Brendan, my cousin, the only justified ending? Or does true justice demand a sliver of mercy, even for the most unforgivable bully? In the end, perhaps mercy is a luxury only the unscathed can afford. What say you?